Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome back. As you know that in the previous lecture we started discussing the characters of this chapter, and we already discussed the character of Antonio, the titular protagonist of this chapter. And now we shall discuss the character sketch of Bassanio. Here you can see, as you can see, that I have written certain points related to him on the page. Bassanio. Who's Bassanio and what is his role? What role does he play in the chapter? Okay, so Bassanio is a young man, and he's a best friend of Antonio. If you remember, in the previous lecture, I told you that Antonio risks his life by signing the bond on which it was written that if Antonio fails to repay the money within a stipulated period of time, then his enemy Shylock would be entitled to cut the pound of flesh from Antonio's body. Antonio risks his life to help Bassanio, as Bassanio wanted to marry Portia, the rich heiress, the rich lady of Belmont, the princess of Belmont. Okay, so what kind of man Bassanio was in the past? And it is said that in the past, Bassanio squandered his wealth. You know, he was extravagant. He was a spendthrift. He squandered his wealth on what things? He squandered his wealth on the pleasures of good living. He squandered his wealth on extravagant expenditures. Okay, in the past, Bassanio is said to be a spendthrift who spends money on trivial things, on the pleasures of life, on the expenditures, on the extravagant expenditures. So now, but now he has, he has left behind his carefree days. He has left behind his carefree days, and now he has resolved. He has resolved to enter a respectable life. How? By being a good husband. As he has squandered his wealth, so he is deeply in debt, and mostly to his friend Antonio. Bassanio, being the model of romantic hero as he is presented, is in love with Portia, the rich heiress of Belmont. Actually, Bassanio wanted to Bassanio wanted to improve the standard of his living again. He was seeking money. So the object of his desire was Portia. Portia, the rich heiress of Belmont, is the perfect suit for him. He's in love with Portia, but Bassanio, being cash poor, has no money to go to Belmont and woo Portia, so and court Portia, propose Portia, win her hand. So he goes to Antonio. You remember that, asks him to lend him 3,000 ducats, but as Antonio at that point of time had Antonio's ships had gone to abroad, so Antonio was cash poor. But Antonio, being loyal to his friend, and Antonio goes to his enemy, gets the money. In this way, Bassanio gets the money, goes to Belmont, and there he is successful in winning the hand of Portia. Actually, there Portia's father has actually has his will, has made a will stipulation that whosoever opens the right casket, you can see the word casket, it's a kind of jewelry box. Actually, Portia's father had made 3 caskets. One was of iron, another was of silver, and another was of gold. It was in one of the caskets. One of the caskets would contain Portia's portrait, and whosoever opens the right casket, which contains Portia's portrait, will be will be allowed to marry Portia. So it was the will. I would repeat it. When Bassanio gets the money after Antonio borrows it from Shylock, Bassanio goes to Belmont, and there when Portia saw him for the first time, she indeed fell in love with him. It was love at first sight from Portia's side, and also love at first sight from Bassanio's side. But when Bassanio goes to Belmont to woo, to court Portia, there he was supposed to go through a test. What was that test? That Portia's father had made a will stipulation that whosoever opens the right casket, there were 3 caskets, iron, silver and gold. 3 caskets थे, आयरन का, सिल्वर का एंड गोल्ड का, और एक कास्केट में देयर वाज दिस Portia's portrait. और जो भी whosoever opens the right casket will be allowed to marry Portia. So with the help of Portia, Bassanio was able to open the casket, iron casket, and indeed there was this Portia's portrait. So he was successful in winning the hand of Portia. Another point that we can add to his character is that his lack of funds. He was cash poor. You know that he was an extravagant. He did extravagant expenditures. His lack of funds does not stop him from enjoying a good life. Okay, he resolved to enter a respectable life by being a good husband. He is presented by Shakespeare as a model of romantic hero. I would repeat it. So Bassanio is another character that we are discussing right now. Young Bassanio is a young man. He's the best friend of Antonio. In the past, he has squandered his wealth on pleasures and extravagant expenditures. He's deeply in debt, mostly to Antonio, and he's in love with Portia. Portia is a rich heiress of Belmont. How he wins when he goes to Belmont to court Portia. There he is successful by the in winning the hand of Portia by opening the right casket which contains Portia's portrait. We can say that his lack of funds does not stop him from generosity, from enjoying a good life. He has resolved to enter a respectable life by being a good husband. So we can say that he's presented by Shakespeare as a model of romantic hero. Okay, in the next lecture we'll be discussing other characters. Allah Hafiz.